Pour myself some tea and continue my Zoom call. About 10 minutes go by and I started to feel funny, like really sleepy all of a sudden.
So the other day I got on my first Zoom call. It's basically like Skype or Google Hangouts or any other group calling application. One person starts a call and a bunch of people can join into that room. The person that hosts the call can mute the mics if they want to, or sometimes it's as easy as just a two-way call that is used a lot in business. Skype is kind of old news now, and Zoom is kind of the new thing, but it was the first time I used it. And it got me thinking that sometimes these face-to-face calls kind of go some crazy stories in horror and stuff, like about the people seeing things in the background and stuff like that, or when there's a Zoom call going on and the person sees something in somebody else's window or hears some bad stuff going down. There's a bunch of like creepypastas and stuff like that that center around it. And because I had the Zoom call the other day and I saw Nightmare Files just put out a Zoom call horror stories video, I figured that we'd react to it. Listen, make sure to go over to Nightmare Files channel, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and if you like reaction videos like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. Let's get into the story.
My name is Chloe and this story happened to me 2 weeks ago.
Hi, Chloe.
I'm 32 years old and have a 10-year-old son named Jesse.
All right.
Every now and then, the company I work for requires me to travel across the state and other parts of the country to take place in important business meetings that are mandatory for me to attend. Thankfully, my bosses are understanding of the situation. Jesse's father isn't in the picture, so my work allows me to bring Jesse with me on business trips. Most of the time, we stay in a rented lodge or an apartment. A few weeks ago, I had to go on another business trip. It was out in the country, which was nice because the house me and Jesse would be staying in was a real small lodge, which was very secluded. The night before the meeting, I was on a Zoom call with my colleagues at around 10 p.m. while Jesse was upstairs playing on his Nintendo Switch.
Okay.
During my Zoom call, Jesse called me from upstairs telling me I need to see something. I excused myself from the call and headed upstairs.
Boy, I'm working.
I went into his room and asked him what was wrong. He told me there was a man outside looking up into his window. I looked out into the dark field.
That's not good.
I couldn't see anything. I told Jesse I couldn't see anybody out there. He said the man walked off into the darkness as he called for me.
Wow. So how old is Jesse right here? I mean, he's definitely a young boy. You know, if he said something specific, like I know some kids are impressionable and their imagination plays tricks on them and stuff like that, but it's still warrant to investigate, right? If at least a little deeper than just dismissing it. If your son tells you or your daughter tells you, Mom, there was a man outside standing in the yard looking at me up on the top window, I think I would be a little bit alarmed.
What he said concerned me, but I had to brush it off as maybe it was a dog walker or something.
A dog?
I usually think rationally when it comes to things like that. I told Jesse to tell me if he sees the man again. I then returned to my Zoom call. About an hour went by when one of my bosses suggested we took a quick bathroom and drink break. Leaving the Zoom call on as we usually do. I went to put a pot of tea on and went upstairs to check how Jesse was.
Spot of tea.
I asked if he was okay and if he saw anything outside. He told me he hadn't seen anybody since.
Good.
I tucked Jesse in the bed and went back downstairs to continue my business call on Zoom. Most of the colleagues were back on from the break, apart from a couple. One of my bosses said, "Oh, that's strange. I thought I just saw you walking around the kitchen." The laptop that I was using for the call.
So, at this point, I know you dismissed whatever your son thought he saw as a dog, right? But when you heard that, the danger flag should have came up and said, hey, if somebody just saw somebody walking around and I just tucked my son in the bed and we the only one here in a secluded place and he saw him, a man outside, there's something not right over here.
Was set on the table in the living room, which was opposite the kitchen, which also had a back door. I replied saying, no, I was just upstairs. He said he was certain that he saw me walking around the kitchen. I laughed and I told him he was seeing things.
No!
The tea started to boil. I had forgot about it.
Don't laugh!
I walked into the kitchen.
Oh my God.
I noticed the back door was slightly open. I thought it was odd, especially being what my boss just said to me. but I chalked it up to Jesse forgetting to close the door.
What? How many warning signs do you need? Son sees something outside and you're in a strange place. Back door's open. Boss just saw somebody moving around in the kitchen on your computer when you were upstairs.
She was outside playing earlier that day after all.
Jeez.
I closed it and locked the door, poured myself some tea and continued my Zoom call. About 10 minutes go by and I started to feel funny. Like really sleepy all of a sudden.
Drug the tea. Drug the hot kettle. Oh, this is not a crime of opportunity, guys. They were targeted.
But it wasn't a normal feeling. I felt fine, and all of a sudden, I felt like I couldn't keep my eyes open.
Can you imagine?
And that's what happened. I fell asleep on a Zoom call. I didn't know at the time, but I was out for about 10 minutes until I woke up to Jesse frantically pulling me, trying to wake me up.
Just 10 minutes?
He told me there was a man outside trying to get in. I turned around. I saw a man on the other side of the back door pulling the door handle in an aggressive way.
Oh my God.
He was furious, as he couldn't get inside. This means that what my boss said to me earlier when he thought he saw me in the kitchen was true.
Yeah.
That man did get in the house as I was upstairs checking on Jesse. He must have spiked my tea, and that's what made me fall unconscious. Once unconscious, I think he was planning to enter the house and assuming the door was still unlocked to take my son away. The thought of this makes me sick to my stomach. I thank God that I noticed the door slightly open and locked it shut. This story could have had an awful ending otherwise. We called the police and they searched the area, and not surprisingly, they found no one. Jesse and I returned home after that.
Dang.
This incident will haunt me for the rest of my life, and Jesse's too.
I guess so. Man, can you imagine? Y'all, you know I got a story for you. You know I got a story for you. So, I ended up going to PAX West. One of the first conventions I ever went to, okay? Penny Arcade Expo. Loved every minute of it. Wouldn't trade it for the world except for my first night. So at the time, I was doing really, really well on YouTube. I was kind of an internet celebrity in my own circle. And I was pretty proud of my success. And I would talk to a lot of people about it. I'm much more private now. I mean, I tell you guys about it, but when I just meet people out and about, I don't say, hey, by the way, I'm internet famous. You know, to some degree even, I usually don't say that. When people ask what I do for a living, I talk to them about it naturally, but it's not this kind of gloaty attitude that I had back then. I was just really proud. It wasn't nothing. I wasn't trying to make people feel bad, you know, or just gloat and brag. I was just very proud of what I did, and I liked to talk about it. And I liked seeing people's reactions when they found out how many followers I had, okay? I still kind of like that, but not in the way... You get, I'm making myself look bad here. Listen, just let's go on with the story. Anyway, I end up going to the hotel bar. I ended up booking a room at a hotel. It was a relatively nice hotel, very close to the convention center. And I ended up booking a room at a hotel, getting in there. And it was kind of late. It was the first time I had ever flown. So I kind of had a little bit of like, man, what a stressful day, you know? And I just wanted to have a couple cocktails to unwind. So I went down to the hotel lobby and they had a really, really nice bar and grill. And I sat at the bar and I started talking with the bartender. And she was a great conversationalist. You know, she and I just kind of talked about the convention and stuff. And she was kind of into gaming. So she and I didn't have, you know, we had plenty to talk about it. And I was just going on and on and on about what I did. And she was like, wow, you're so lucky to have this kind of success and blah, 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 blah. In that conversation, I ended up having dinner and a couple of cocktails. Now, I drank rum and coke regularly. And I mean very, very, very regularly, to the point of where I knew exactly how it would make me feel in public, because I was actually wary about that. You know, getting too drunk in public when you're by yourself is not a good look, and it can end up pretty bad, you know. But I didn't have anywhere else to go. I was just going to go up after my room. So I had 2 cocktails, nowhere near enough to have me drunk. Well, I drank the first cocktail, and naturally, you know what happens when you drink cocktails. You have to go to the bathroom after that. Well, I went to the bathroom and I came back and I ordered a second cocktail and I finished my meal, and about a quarter way through the second cocktail, I started to feel drunk. Like drunk. Like drunk like I had never felt before drunk. And I didn't know what was going on at the time, but I thought I was going to be sick. Not to the point sick like my stomach was hurting, sick to the point that I was so drunk, I was like, oh man, I'm going to be hungover. Didn't think about the quantity that I had drank or anything at the time. I was just feeling inebriated, and I ended up panicking and going straight to my room. You guys, I did not remember paying my tab. The next day, I'll tell y'all what happened in the room, okay? But the next day, I ended up going down to the service desk where because the bar was closed naturally, and telling the hostess how sorry I was that I neglected to pay my tab the night before. Well, they assured me that I had paid my tab and that everything was fine. I just didn't remember paying my tab. So what transpired, this is what I think transpired, is at some point between the time that I went to the bathroom and that I got back, my drink was drugged, okay? Either that or my food was drugged. And it wasn't the bartender because, well, it could have been the bartender, but I very seriously doubt it. It was probably someone around me that was listening and knew that I was traveling alone and knew who I was, and no telling what was going to happen, but she was the only person that I made any kind of conversation with. So, you know, normally you wouldn't get that type of deal from a professional. It was much more likely to be someone that was listening in, that was hearing what was going on, that did that. But I believe I was drugged. And it must have been a sedative of some sort because, like I said, my mind was just gone. My memories were erased. I didn't remember going up to my room or anything. Now, when I woke up in the morning and I tried to piece together what had happened to me the night before, I ended up taking off my shoes, and that's it. I still had my hat on in the bed. Okay? So I woke up, and I don't sleep with my hat. I know y'all always see me with my hat, but I didn't sleep with my hat. So basically, I entered in the room, and I had enough, I still had enough sense to take my shoes off, but I must have just passed out in the bed. Like, I had never been that drunk before in my life. I never remembered my mind being erased. And I'm telling you, same rum that I always drink, y'all. Same kind of cocktail that I always drink. And I only had about 1 1/3, maybe 1 1/2 if you want to stretch it. Even if I would have had 2. Guys, 2 is normal for me. Trust me. I knew exactly what was going on. So your boy got drugged like that. So I can't imagine how scared she was feeling when she knew that she was going to be drugged. But I got to tell you guys, y'all got to be careful. And this situation, this Zoom call, it's, you know, I wouldn't have thought that anything like that should have been just like, hey, what's going on? You know, like, there was so many signals. Maybe it was just because of the story and the embellishing and stuff like that, but there was so many signals. If your danger radar goes off, man, you gotta listen to it. And I did that day, and it probably ended up saving me. No telling what would have happened if I wouldn't have had enough sense to rush to my room, you know. But might have I didn't avoid any embarrassment, but I avoided anything detrimental happened to me, and that was one of the craziest experiences of my life. I told my wife about it, and she's still not happy about me traveling by myself ever. So I try to do the buddy system now, at least meet somebody the first night that I'm there. And I usually do when I do go to conventions, but it's crazy, man. Y'all be safe out there. I hope y'all really enjoyed this video, by the way. Make sure to go to subscribe to Nightmare Tales. Awesome stories always coming from his channel. We're going to continue to react to him in the future as well. If you like that kind of story, you should check out these for sure. It's some other narrated stories with pictures that you'll like. Thanks so much for watching, guys. As always, this is Zueljin signing off, and we'll see you next time.